So the book of Jonah. So on Yom Kippur at Mincha, we read the book of Jonah. It's a short book, but we read the whole book. And just by the way, to either be the one who purchases the call up or reads it is a segula. We'll translate that shortly, for wealth. Right? When we say segula in, there's really not a word for it in English, but just to give an example, if someone's working for a company, there's certain behaviors that certain things you can do that make it more likely you'll get a bonus. Doesn't guarantee it, but there's certain things you can do that makes it probable or more likely that you're going to get a bonus or a raise.
More favorable.
Right, and there are certain behaviors that are probably going to make it more likely that a person's going to get fired. Right, so when we behave in certain ways, we create certain reactions. So that's how it works in the physical world. It's how it works spiritually as well. When we behave in certain ways, do certain things, it opens certain spiritual channels, and likewise, God forbid, the opposite. So one of the things that can open spiritual channels and allow the blessing of wealth to come into this world is the book of Jonah. So many shuls they auction it off and various things, which certainly opens up the blessings of wealth to the shul, and hopefully to the person who bought it as well. Right. So
it depends on the shul. Our shul doesn't do it.
That's right. So 1 year I was in a shul in New York, and it was going very cheap. The Mafti Jonah. I thought, well, for this price, I'm going to buy it, and then I bought it. But then I thought, I don't really want to take it because it's like being a big shot. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to my father-in-law, and then I remembered he's a Levi, and it's the third call up, which you can't give to a Levi, or my brothers-in-law. So I thought, okay, well, my boss, my Rosh Hashanah, he's a Kohen. I give him. Anyway, we worked it out. I found someone who appreciated it, but that's what happened. So who was Jonah? Let's start off. Who was Jonah? So you may have heard the story of Eliyahu Novi. He gave a blessing to a woman that didn't have children. She prepared a place for him to stay. He used to travel by this area a lot. She prepared an attic, the bed. It was like a little, I guess we'll call it a motel room, for lack of, a hospitality place. And he Elisha.
Elisha, yeah.
So anyway, the child got revived. So the child died and was revived. So this is the child that was revived.
Oh, Jonah was the child?
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't know that.
He lived over 120 years. He anointed some of the kings of the 10 tribes of Israel, the kingdom of Israel. And between being resurrected and his experience of being inside the fish, which was not a whale, by the way, right? It was a giant fish. But it wasn't a whale. It was actually a kosher fish, and a whale is not kosher. And just in the Greek translation, when they translate the word for giant fish and whale is the same word, and then from there to Latin to English, however it happened.
I thought it was lox.
Could have been. Well, that's what kept him inside. Right. So that experience he went through, talking about suffering, it cleansed him to the point that he was one of the people who did not die, but his body went to the next world together with his soul, totally purified. And according to the Talmud Yerushalmi, he got this prophecy that we're speaking about in this book during Sukkot in the Simchas Beis HaSheva. Right? It was a water drawing ceremony, and it was an incredibly joyous time. And during this incredibly joyous experience, he got this prophecy that he should go to Nineveh and tell them to change their ways. All right. Now, Nineveh was this massive city. So it was the capital of Assyria, or the main city anyway. And they were the enemy of Israel at the time. Right? They were the kingdom that was causing a lot of problems. And they invaded and had raids, and they sometimes fought with Egypt. And of course, Egypt's on one side of Israel, Assyria was on the other side. So where they have their wars is in Israel. You know, they definitely, it wasn't exciting. Now, there were 120,000 people in Nineveh, approximately. Now, when we look at our large modern cities today, that doesn't sound like a lot. But for the ancient world, you have to understand, for an ancient world, 300 was a large city.
Rabbi,
Yeah. Yes.
Can you just tell again? You said that the reincarnation of Jonah was who?
So the Pirkei de Rabbi Eliezer says it was Eliyahu who revived him.
Oh, okay. Oh, so the boy that that Elisha revived?
So I guess that wasn't him. Sorry. Right. Yes. So I got confused. My apologies. So Elisha revives child of Malachim base, and Eliyahu revives the child of Malachim Aleph.
Okay.
Right.
And is that
this is the one that Eliyahu revived.
Okay. Thank you.
So, in the ancient world, all towns are built next to a river, around some wells. How many people could it hold? You didn't have running water, you didn't have various things. So, 300 was a pretty good sized city. This had 120,000. It was like maybe the largest metropolis in the history of the world at the time. So this was the city. And it became notorious for its theft, and violence, and robbery, and various things. So if they were so bad, why did Hashem want them to change? So was a few reasons. Number one is their descent into this current poor behavior was only recent. So they're given a chance to be the correct themselves. Number two is they didn't worship idols at this stage. Right? That wasn't what they were doing. They had been a pretty good city, and there was success there, and they got greedy, and they started, trying to cheat each other, so they were given the opportunity to try and repair. And finally, as we know, Assyria was the rod, so to speak, that was going to be used in the future if the Jewish people didn't do it, which unfortunately they didn't. And the Syria/Babylon, they're the ones who destroyed the Beis HaMikdash and various things. So Jonah gets this prophecy to go and tell them to do tshuva, and he doesn't want it. Now, most prophets are pretty holy people, and if Hashem tells a prophet to go do something, why wouldn't he want to listen to Hashem? So again, we've got two issues here. Well, it's really two sides of the same coin. One, as we said, they were the enemy of the Jews. They were making raids on the Jews. There was it wasn't all-out war, but it was like a cold peace with guerrilla warfare and different things. So out of his love for his fellow Jews, he was quite happy to see Nineveh get destroyed because, that saves the Jews. That was part one of why he didn't want to listen. Part two is that he thought to himself like this. At the moment, unfortunately, there are quite a few Jewish people worshipping various idols and not behaving the way they should. And there are prophets, Hashem's prophets, telling the Jewish people to change, and they're having very limited success. Can you imagine if one of the prophets, and at this stage he's a minor prophet, goes off to Nineveh and says, gentlemen, you need to improve or Hashem's going to deal with you. And they say, oi, the prophet gave us this warning, let's change. And then they change, which is what happened. How is that going to make the Jewish people look? If we ourselves don't listen to our own prophets and non-Jews do, how does that, that's going to make the Jewish people more culpable. And this was his fear. So he decided to run away. Now, the verse is mistranslated again via Western world, which comes by Christianity because they don't understand the nuances of Hebrew and the true meaning of Judaism. So what the verse says is when he runs away melifnei Hashem. Let's literally translate this as from before, we'll say from before Hashem. Now, obviously, everyone understands that Hashem is everywhere, even a child. There's a God who is omnipresent in every place. You can't run away. Surely, the prophet Jonah understands you can't run away from Hashem. So in Hebrew, there's a big difference. It doesn't say he ran away mipnei Hashem, which would mean from Hashem. Right? It doesn't say that. It says melifnei. Melifnei means like from in front of. From in front of. In other words, he got the prophecy in the Beis HaMikdash during the Simchas Beis HaSheva. He wanted to run away from the place that the Shekhinah is revealed in the hope he will no longer receive prophecy. Because how many times can Hashem tell you to do something and you don't do it? So as soon as he got told to do it, he wasn't running away from Hashem. He was running away from the revealed presence of Hashem that was in Jerusalem to hopefully not be able to receive prophecy anymore. That was his goal. And he went down to Jaffa, and he got on a ship, and this was the closest port. And instead, he got on a ship that went to Tarshish. That was a different place. He paid his fare, and gets on the ship, and off he goes. So they're traveling along, and it becomes this terrible storm. Terrible, terrible storm. And as this storm's going, I think we sort of hit the hour.
Yeah, we did hit the hour.
I guess we'll continue tomorrow, God willing.
Okay. Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you. Wish everyone a wonderful afternoon.
At least we got to start it.
Yep.
Thank you, Rabbi.
No problems.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Take care. A wonderful afternoon.
Everybody.